We filed an application which came up today asking the court, Federal High Court Justice Binta Nyako, to grant us leave to apply for an order of mandamus to compare the SSS and the director of SSS to provide Nnamdi Kanu unhindered access to his medical doctors, as this same court had ordered in September 2021, October 2021, unhindered access to a medical doctor of his own choice. We also want the court to grant us leave for an order of mandamus to compare the SSS and the director of SSS to provide Nnamdi Kanu all his medical records since the 29th of June 2021, when he was detained by the SSS on the order of this honorable court after he was forcibly renditioned back from Kenya, where he had been forcefully abducted and kidnapped like they did to Umaru Diko on the 27th of June 2021. And the grounds are that Nnamdi Kanu is dying by installments. His ear, the left ear, is already blocked, cannot hear. It was the SSS doctor themselves that actually recommended that he must have a surgery. And that was on the 18th of November last year. And that this must be done within 45 days. Of course, between the 18th of November and now, where more than 45 days have passed, nobody is answering him. He can no longer see well. He has his underlying heart problem. He's detained in solitary confinement. He's not allowed to practice his Jewish religion. He's not even allowed to greet other inmates, because when he greets them, they go and put him and other inmates in a more solitary confinement. And what they are doing is that his potassium level has increased very high, and they don't know how to control it. And they are doing trial and error on a daily basis on his head, trial and error. Meanwhile, his own private medical doctor, Dr. Sinfine, who had come to look at him, they refused him access. They don't even allow us lawyers, for example, Ejiofor and myself, Ejiofor and myself, to even conference, to have a joint conference with him. Only one lawyer is allowed at a time. You are not to go in with papers and write. So everything is loaded against the applicant. Meanwhile, the law is that the Section 7 of the Anti-Torture Act of Nigeria says that a detainee like Nnamdi Kanu is entitled to an independent medical doctor of his own choice, apart from the order of this court given in October 2021. They are not obeying that. So Nnamdi Kanu is simply at their mercy. And this is the same SSS, the same federal government that has refused to release Nnamdi Kanu after the judgment of the Court of Appeal of October 13th, 2022, which quashed all the charges against him, and also decreed or ordered that he must never be charged to court again on those charges, on those counts, and that he must never be detained. And he was discharged. The federal government is illegally and unlawfully and unconstitutionally holding Nnamdi Kanu till today, including after the United Nations ruling delivered in June 2022, in July, that Nnamdi Kanu should not only be released for the violation of his human rights, but that they should also pay him compensation. All these have been ignored by the federal government that is still keeping Nnamdi Kanu in torturous, inhuman, and degrading conditions. I was with him just 2 days ago on Monday, and it's not well. He said, please tell them to release me from here. I don't want to die. And by the way, the law is that when a person is undergoing trial, whether bail is refused or denied, if bail is refused, then he is transferred to the correctional center, Kuje prisons. We have been begging this court to transfer Nnamdi Kanu to Kuje prisons. And the DSS is always opposing it. Meanwhile, the DSS cannot take care of his condition. Where is the justice in the system? When the DSS, they arrested him, they kept him away, they detained him on the orders of the court, they investigated, they are prosecuting. So the prosecution has become persecution. Because it is unheard of how a person can be a judge in his own cause. That's what they are doing. So Nnamdi Kanu is not having justice served to him as a citizen of Nigeria. We are not asking for any special space or place for him. We are asking that Nnamdi Kanu be treated fairly like other Nigerians. Do you know that in the case of Gloria Mowari versus the police, the Court of Appeal heard that you cannot stay execution of the judgment releasing a citizen, because it is like you are granting a stay of liberty of a citizen's stay of execution of a citizen's liberty. So everything this government has done has been wrong, illegal, and illegal, unconstitutional, and unconstitutional, wrongful, and wrongful, unlawful, and unlawful. And except stopped by this court, they will continue. So having written letters dated 12th and 18th of December 2022 to the DSS, detailing all the records of Nnamdi Kanu that we wanted them to produce, the medical records, and telling them to allow unhindered access to him, to a medical doctor of his choice, as directed earlier in 2021 by this court, and they haven't refused to obey. Then the issue of an order of mandamus has come in. An order of mandamus is an order of the court to compel a public servant or a public officer to carry out a duty that is bound to carry out after he has been given notice to carry out that duty and he failed. Today, Justice Nyako granted us that order. So we are now going to apply to compel the SSS to allow Nnamdi Kanu access to his medical doctors unhindered, and then to provide us with all his medical records since this case started.
Yes.
Sorry, we also understand that some of the defendants apply to court through the intention to defend.
No, that's another matter.
Oh,
that was another matter entirely.
Okay.
Oh, it was a second case they called for me.
Okay.
That one is the seizure of two vessels. That was case number 10. This was case number 4.
Okay, so when is this one adjourned to now?
21st of February. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. 21st of February.
Was it